You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, The 100-Year Lifestyle, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Ultimate Entrepreneur Opportunity, Brain Tap, Sherman College of Chiropractic, and Chiro Pro Accounting. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 242 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Nathan Gerowitz, and if you want to know about playing the field the right way and winning for chiropractic today, stay tuned. All right, episode of Chiro Hustle coming to you right now. We have Nathan Gerowitz coming in from
Chicagoland, which always makes it sound like a theme park.
It's a big theme park full of high rises.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm up in the Northwest Burbs.
Cool. And Luke, what episode is this?
This is episode 242.
Wow.
So upon our typical format, Luke, I'll let you open up with question one.
So, Dr. Nathan, thank you very much for being our guest today. And why don't we open up with maybe you explaining your chiropractic story and what initially influenced you to become a chiropractor?
Sure. So I'm sitting in my hometown of Palatine, and my uncle was a chiropractor here. His office, which is now run by someone else, is about 100 yards down the street that way. So I've been adjusted since I was, I don't know, probably around 1 year old. So I always just grew up with it being a part of my life. And not really until much later knowing the depth of what it is, I just knew like, oh, I've got a bit of a cold. I'm going to go see my uncle and get adjusted. I've been sitting in class all day. My back's a little achy. I'm going to go get adjusted. I used to have bronchitis every year as a kid. And so whenever that would happen, I would go get adjusted. And that was kind of the extent of any sort of major childhood injury I had. So we all just it was just part of our lives. And when I was a senior in high school, kind of starting to figure out like I knew what college I wanted to go to, but it was sort of, what do I want to do with my life? And I was kind of choosing between physical therapy and chiropractic. And I worked at a physical therapy clinic for about a year, my senior year of high school. It was a lot of fun. No other job I've ever found lets you play with soccer balls and silly putty on that regular of a basis. But after a year, I knew it wasn't for me. And then I went to Carthage College up in Kenosha, which is, I lovingly call the northernmost suburb of Chicago. And then when I was starting to look for what chiropractic school, I asked my uncle and I asked a bunch of his friends, hey, where should I go? And they gave me a list. I went on what my dad and I called our tour de chiropractic, and we checked out 5 or 6 schools, and I eventually wound up at Life University. And so the two major influences that kind of got me there were, I think one was my uncle for sure, just because it was just always ingrained as part of what we do. And the other aspect was that my dad had a spinal cord injury when I was in 6th grade. He was at a park playing on the jungle gym, he was about to hop down off of the platform. And I mean, you guys have been to playgrounds, so you get what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And the way that it was structured, his legs slipped from under him, landed with his back on the knife edge of the platform, which I don't need to tell you guys is not a fun day. By the time he hit the ground, he was paralyzed from the waist down. And yeah, it was a weird day. I was meanwhile home sick in bed with mild hallucinations of it was just a really bad cold. And so the doctors, after a couple of days of really intense steroids, said, well, you've got options. Either A, never walk again, if we do nothing. B, we can do this surgery, pretty advanced techniques, and you'll probably never walk again. My dad lovingly likes to joke they didn't know who they were dealing with. He was dancing at a family bar mitzvah about a year and a half later. And so from that relatively young spot in my life, we used every sort of healing modality we were aware of. I'm aware of a lot more now. However, it became very clear to me that, even his doctors are amazing in terms of orthopedists, neurosurgeons. They're absolutely excellent. And there was something else going on at play here that, even though they said, yeah, you'll probably never walk again, and he was dancing, less than, a year or so later. So that sort of left somewhere in the back of my mind going like, well, what else is at play here? And then being around my uncle who passed away in 2011, and he lived what I lovingly called, we would all probably call the chiropractic lifestyle. to an annoying degree, and to all the rest of us in our family. And he still got sick. And so there was something it kind of sent me on this sort of journey of like, well, what else is at play here, beyond just sort of what was conventional, if that makes some sort of sense. And then I got down to Life University and found a lot of things that I believe my uncle was searching for at the time. One was the work of Arnaud Bernier, one was the work of Sue Brown, and one was a teacher named Susan Rossi. And so those have been kind of three of my main influences. And then I came back here and started my own practice, 2 doors down from my dad, who's still walking. And here I am with you guys on the podcast.
It's a great story.
I try.
Well, thank you so much for opening up with your chiropractic mantelpiece of how you got into this beautiful profession. And, I think that coming full circle from the story to the practitioner is a really cool thing. And I know that you've done some really cool stuff with Philanthropy. Would you mind touching on that a little bit?
Sure. So my undergrad college, does every 6 months a service trip down to Nicaragua. There's a big lake in Nicaragua with an island there. It's made of 2 volcanoes that are fused together. One's dormant, one's active. It's a really cool spot. And every year they go down with a series with a group of students, and they essentially put on a bunch of medical clinics. We bring down up here it'd be like $3,000 worth of supplies, but the way we buy it and purchase it, not my department, but it's about $40,000 worth of antivirals, antiparasitics, antibiotics, all that fun stuff. And the students get to work in medical clinics with local doctors that we bring into the island. And my group went in 2011, and it was an absolutely phenomenal experience because you alternate days in medical clinics with days climbing volcanoes. It's a fun time. And while we're there, the professors and my group of students, we all kind of came to the same conclusion that it wasn't a lack of antibiotics or antivirals that was getting people sick. It was the fact that the water down there is terrible. It's absolutely filled with crap. And so we started, like my group of students started at our college, essentially a nonprofit called Carthage World Relief, trying to get clean water onto the island. And that's actually grown. And one of our main things is that when students come back from the trip, we always feel like we got to do stuff, but there's never a mechanism in place. So we wanted to create an easy way for students to be able to get involved and do a benefit concert, which is what we did a lot. We sold bracelets, we did pottery sales, we did a lot of different things trying to get money. And it eventually, through some of the connections with some of the students, it led to property being purchased on the island. And so there's clean water on that property. And now it's just a matter of how do we continue to build it out. And that was my first taste of international service work. And since then, I've done 5 service trips, I think. I've gone back to Nicaragua twice the last 2 years. Unfortunately, we can't go this year because of everything going on. But the last 2 years, I was able to go back as a chiropractor, which was a lot of fun. And when I was in chiropractic school, I went to Peru and went to Brazil.
So I guess my question for you is, how is this translated over into your practice?
Yeah. So one aspect of it is, you're there, you basically have your table yourself. You don't have x-ray, or I'll speak from my experience. I don't have x-ray. I don't have thermal scans. I don't have HRV. It's essentially, can I serve people at the same level that I do in the States with all of my fun toys and doodads and gadgets when it's just me and the table, and sometimes not even the table. And that was really it was a challenge that was put forth in school, where if you got kicked out of an airplane and landed in a jungle, could you still take care of people? And my group of friends and I, we really took that to heart of, yes, having all of this technology is excellent. It's fantastic and wonderful, but nothing can trump the interconnection and the inner technology that all of us have, and tune into it and fine tune it to the sense that you can do a thermal scan with your hand. You can read the system of a human being, find out where everything is bound up, constricted, where is life force flowing easily, and be able to work with them in that way. The other aspect that came into play last year is when all the shutdowns started to happen, I was able to stay open in my state. And so it was, rather than normally I might have people in here, on the table for 5 to 10 minutes, it was how rapidly can I move people through, just because people were a little nervous about being around each other. And so I was joking with friends of mine, like, man, all that time, all those service trips, that skill set's really coming into play right now. But really, I think it's that when I was able to just be in pure service all day and be adjusting from the time we opened the doors to the time we closed them down so I could eat dinner, it was almost a losing and a finding myself in that service. And I would imagine most of your listeners who are chiropractors or students who have kind of experienced that know what I'm talking about. It's not coming from you, it's coming through you. And that's also a testament to the work that I've done going into it. But it's a really powerful experience when it's just you and another person, and all the other mental chatter gets to fall away. And it's in that pure connection that real magic starts to happen. And the other great thing about service trips is that there's almost like the rules sort of fall away, in the sense that a lot of people who come into chiropractic offices have a lot of preconceived notions or belief systems about what chiropractic is, what it's for, how it works, how long it has to take to work. And we're seeing, you can ask most people who've been on service trips, we're doing years worth of care in a week, because the system is so primed and ready, and there's no part of the finite ego or mind that's going to limit the process. Is that making a little bit of sense, or am I just rambling?
Absolutely. And it really stirs up some contextual ideas for me.
Please.
And do you feel like, I know that you can't become a chiropractor without going to chiropractic school, but do you feel like you learned more by being on these service mission trips and working with the likeness of Arnaud Bernier than you actually might have garnered from going through an accredited university?
Let me phrase it this way. I view chiropractic school as their job, their role is to help me pass boards, get me all the classes I need. It's a lot of chiropractic schools, especially places like Life West, Sherman, are really handcuffed by the CCE and what is required of them based on boards. It's a whole political thing, which we absolutely don't have to get into today. That their job was to get me to pass to get me the classes, pass the boards, and be able to get my license from my state. The important part, and especially to any chiropractic students listening, is finding a school that will try and fit as much vitalistic, salutogenic chiropractic in the crevices, in the gaps, as humanly possible. But I do think that in terms of working with people, in terms of working with having people, whether I'm on an island in Nicaragua or in my office, connecting with someone, listening to them, allowing them to at least be moderately inspired by a different perspective on things and be able to deliver the goods, that I learned most of from these service trips and from the seminars that I did in school, the clubs that I did in school, and the ones that I've done since. And you can ask many of my friends, I was kind of known as a seminar junkie at the time.
So what would you say are some mantras or motivational quotes that resonate with you that you live your life by?
Yeah. The one I heard it first from Eric Rubin. I don't know where he learned it from, but I'm going to give him credit for it. And I literally have it on the other side of this wall in my adjusting suite, which is that we are all perfect exactly as we are. And we could all use a little improvement, which I think is a really beautiful way of almost summing up chiropractic philosophy in the chiropractic perspective and the principle of things. I'm pretty sure it's a Zen proverb, because the chiropractic principle is timeless, ageless. We're sort of the stewards of it right now, but it's an ancient principle that we happen to be utilizing and applying with our hands. So that's one of them. One of the other big ones when I'm working with people is just show me. It's how do I allow the monkey mind to sort of calm down so I can really listen to the person, listen to what their body is telling me. And oftentimes I have plenty of analyses that I've learned, and I love all of them dearly, and they're great. And also, how do I use them and then let that part of myself relax and really listen to the person? So show me is another great one. And one of the other most beautiful ones and most profound ones I learned from, as Jim, you mentioned Arnaud, and the MLS approach, which is to ground, center, open my heart. And that's whether I'm on a podcast, that's whether I'm talking to a mom who's just lost her husband and is bringing her kids in for care, or that's whether I'm about to toggle an atlas. So those are a couple that have really helped me. And that being said, I try new ones all the time. I know a lot of friends of mine are really diligent with, like, they have their morning routine. It is the same every time and it works beautifully for them. Mine is very fluid and in flux, because what worked for me last week, it might be a little different this week. But those are some of the ones that I've continuously come back for. The other one is just to see the field, which I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Legend of Bagger Vance. It's a golf movie with Will Smith and Matt Damon and Charlize Theron. I'll send you guys the link if you want for this one scene, and it's about seeing the field and not seeing, in this case, the flag at the end of the golf course is a dragon you have to slay, but to look with soft eyes, which is really the viewpoint I take on subluxations, on adjusting, to look with soft eyes and not see it as the silent killer, but as the stored potential for so much greater life expression.
That might be one of the things that I've ever interviewed people on that really calmed me. Like, I'm pretty vigilant and I'm pretty intense. I don't blink a whole lot.
And we love you for it.
But I'm always very fastidious with listening and interpreting what people are saying and learning how to compact that down and make sense, and then redistribute that with my own vernacular. Sure. And you just really calmed me, man. I feel like I've been, go quite hard lately. And just the whole conceptual idea of seeing things with soft eyes, it just kind of made me realize that I don't have to look at the flag. I can just look at the field.
Yeah.
And I just play to my own strength, and I don't have to worry about what other people's strengths are.
Yeah. And it's probably going to allow you, it's allowed me, the more I do it, to let other people's strengths come through and let them share their gifts while I share mine. And that was one of the many gifts of 2020 was, for me, I'm a relatively young practitioner, to be able to just focus on, I'm just going to be your chiropractor. I don't have to be I'm not going to try and be everything to everyone all the time. I've got a lot of skill sets that I can bring. And my main thing is I'm going to be your chiropractor. And for me, one of my teachers, Lou Corletto, put it really elegantly one time. Some people in our profession find chiropractic very limiting. Like, oh, it's just the spine. It's just the 26 vertebra. 24, 26, depends on whether we count sacrum and occiput. I get that. In 5 years, William Shakespeare used 26 letters to write all of the plays and sonnets that he did. Michelangelo used essentially 3 colors to create the Sistine Chapel in 5 years. So it's what do we want to create, and what potential are we accessing? Because it's always there and it's always deepening, and the application can change, and it changes all the time. And brilliant people bring forth new ways of applying it, but the principle is still the same.
Yeah. I mean, the things that you're sharing, you're such a great communicator. I don't know how many times people actually give you a pat on your back for being a great communicator.
Thank you.
I can see you don't talk for yourself, you talk for others. And you just said something to me that I want to, circle up and say, Luke and I don't know if he went to this. Yeah, you did go to 10X with me when we saw John Maxwell.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the thing that I took away from that whole talk, he talked for an hour, but the only thing that I heard him say was, "Hi, my name's John and I'm your friend." And the only thing I've heard you say is, "Hi, my name's Nathan and I'm your chiropractor." And I think that it's a beautiful thing that you can share the story and you can share the meaningful aspect of all this. But when you really look at the simplicity of seeing the field, I see Nate as the chiropractor. And what you've done is you've harvested intelligence from leaders, from service, from seminar, from collegiate experience. And now you are who you're supposed to be, and nothing less. And you are perfect. And when I listen to you speak, I see somebody that might not always been sure of themselves, look for approval from others, And now you are the one that is signifying approval to others. And that's what happens when the follower becomes a leader. And I think that that's really cool to see that you've matriculated into this space where you almost discredit yourself for being a doctor by saying, I've only been doing it a couple years. But, when I interview students, one of my favorite things to ask them is, what does it mean for you to be the first doctor in your family? And I think that that's something of honor for people to have that like mirror moment to say, oh man, it has been like the greatest struggle of my life. But oh boy, like it means a whole lot to me and my family that I can become a chiropractor. And I think that that's the moment of resonance that I have with you today is I see Nate, the chiropractor.
Thank you, Jim. I really that really means a lot. You're making me blush. I really, really appreciate and thank you for that, Jim. I really do.
Well, I think, I've been practicing a lot more of recognition to others around me. Like my weight training partner that I was with last night, I just said, hey, Mike, I love you so much. Thank you for being like a lightning rod for me and getting me going and sticking with me. And Luke was doing dishes yesterday and I was leaving to do something. I said, Luke, I don't know if I tell you this enough, but I appreciate you so much for like carrying the weight when I'm confused and like running around crazy and I'm on 50 back-to-back calls and I don't know what I'm eating or where I'm going, but you always keep us going to the North Star and you keep us on course. So I think that we can't do enough of that really is to be somebody that recognizes others and say kind things to them and not just be so damn busy and not just be such in service. But the one thing that we have the ability to do is make people feel a certain way with how we react to them and how we say things to them. And that's really the blessing and the beauty of podcasting is we get a chance to recognize other and have them be seen and heard.
Absolutely. And it's such a connection and intimacy that I think people are craving now more than ever. And, last year was sort of the great amplifier. Whatever you were feeling, wherever you were with things, it just got amplified. If you had any sort of lingering mistrust or about your body, boy, did that get amplified last year. If you had little doubts, like it got amplified last year. And I think for most people, I've seen it throughout the course of my lifetime. So many people have been living in fear. I think really 9/11 is what really jump-started that and kick-started it. And it's just been one major thing after another, after another, after another. And we all kind of have a choice of whether we live in love or whether we live in fear. And admittedly, there's a lot of financial interests in us continuing to live in fear. And so last year, I think, was one of the gifts that was available is to be able to really find out where the North Star is. And Luke, very well done for keeping us then aiming that direction, because it is, it's a challenge to be able to be in both the infinite realm of possibility and in the finite world at the same time. To be both in the world and not of the world. It's an ever growing challenge, I think, for all of us. And if it wasn't for the horrible loss of life last year, there were a lot of great gifts. The gifts are still there. The packaging was a little iffy.
Yeah, and just putting it into context again, like our job as a unit is to make chiropractic known, liked, and trusted. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something of an honorable position within this profession is to be what of a spokesperson or spokesduo for what we're doing with the chiropractic stories. Absolutely. But also I think it's really important to make freedom and love and vogue again and let people know that it's okay to have personal freedoms. It's okay to not live in fear and pain. It's okay to trust a chiropractor for your health needs. It's okay to have freedom for your own decision making when it comes to how you show up every day. It's okay for people to do what they want to with their own bodies. It's okay for people to make their own decisions for their families and for their household and for their individual decision making. Freedom should be something cool. Love should be something really cool. And chiropractic should be something that we just amplify and create that as the main amplifier to instill these types of mindset shifts and ethical stances in people's lives. Because as you notice from freeing people's nervous systems, you free that body, you free that family, you free the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could just do that with what we do with traffic control of the message, is let's free the channel, let's clear the field, and let the person that's supposed to be able to understand how to thrive with freedom, chiropractic, and love to be able to have access to their own truth and to not feel judgment or fear from being who they innately are supposed to be. And if you want to live in fear and do things that are incongruent with your mindset and your belief systems, then don't judge me for doing otherwise, and don't judge them for doing otherwise either.
I think one of the biggest things that's been coming up and that I've noticed recently is empathy, and occasionally a lack thereof. That it is an incredibly lost art form, and it's one of the many things that even if let's say we connect and we have a disagreement on things, if we can empathize with each other, then we can respectfully disagree and remain in good communication and good connection. And it's a very lost thing, I think, right now in our culture, both locally, nationally, and worldwide. And it's and I also work off the premise that the only place I have real control, power, influence is myself. And so it's how do I go within and look for the place where I'm judgmental, where I look for the aspect of me or the part of me that needs to be right or refuses to compromise on things. And like my inner zealot, if you will, and how do I allow that part to relax and really integrate that and not let that aspect run the show? Because not to get too metaphysical here, but there are universal laws that govern things, and one of them establishes that as above, so below, as within, so without. If I can change my inner world and my inner world, it can affect my outer environment in really beautiful ways. And it's one of the only places that I have any sort of control. And I mean, I'm a chiropractor. I work with the master control system of the body. I'm a bit of a control freak in that way. So I have to find ways to navigate that.
So how do you think the world would change if every person started getting checked and adjusted when necessary?
It's a big question. It really is. And, I have to come back. I have to, find ways of at least giving myself peace a little bit, that right now, everything again is working exactly as it needs to be for what comes next. There's a huge amount of shadow processing that is going around culturally in terms of a lot of things, Jim, that you were saying in terms of how freedom, love, connection, health, our bodies, our autonomy. It's a lot of things going on. And that being said, the vision of what is possible is really infinite, in the sense that one of the things that really set my soul on fire in chiropractic is when I got to chiropractic school, I loved chiropractic, but I wasn't in love with it yet. And I had so many wonderful, beautiful friends who had these amazing stories that they blew out 2 discs in their back and chiropractic got them back in the gym. And that's why they decided to come to it. And I didn't really have that. It was just sort of part of what how I lived my life. And I met Sue Brown, and she was the first person to tell me, and keep in mind, at that point, I'd been adjusted for about 23 years. I had been in chiropractic school for 2 quarters. My uncle was a chiropractor. I'd been around it nonstop. She's the first person to tell me Dee Dee's words of that the purpose and principle of chiropractic is to unite man the physical with man the spiritual. Not to make a transition to the next world, but in this world. And what is possible is not only a healing for humanity, a healing for people, both in terms of their physiology, but in the deep core of their being, the wounds that we all carry, an integration of the pieces of ourselves that have been left behind. Because a subluxation is bound, stored energy from life experience. That means that we don't have access to the wisdom and the gifts of those experiences. It's creating physical and physiological distortions, emotional and mental fixation, and it's not allowing our soul to really express itself and the gifts and wonderment of who we really are. So not only is it potentially a change of the health of humanity, but a change in how we evolve throughout the courses of our lives and how we awaken and really start to create change. I'm sort of an eternal optimist on things. Big difference from being positive, because optimism allows you to be like, yeah, there's some weeds in the garden, but we can weed the garden. So it's just a matter of what's possible. It's hard to really say, but one of the things is that either a resolution of a lot of the health challenges that people are having, or people being able to move through it being unattached to their health challenge. I meet people all the time who identify not as Jim, not as Luke, not as Susie, not as Lucy, but they identify as I'm a diabetic. They identify as I'm a cancer survivor. The attachment to this expression versus as opposed to potentially being able to say, yeah, this is my physical expression right now, but who I am is so much bigger than that. And regardless of, my sister is a cancer survivor. It's a huge aspect of who she is. It's not all of who she is, though. And with now, to caveat on all this, to do this, for what I'm describing of people being able to really evolve through the course of their lifetime and awaken to the greatness of who they are and share their innate gifts with the world, requires of those of us who are serving the principle with our hands or with instruments. I don't have a preference either way on that. If that's the principle of chiropractic, and we all signed up and agreed to be chiropractors, like we paid a lot of money to do it, is the art form that we're doing and our communication helping convey that and create that? And if not, are we willing to change how we do things, to look at different techniques and approaches, to blend things together and not be as sometimes dogmatic or sometimes attached ourselves to a specific approach? If you ask any of my people, if you said, hey, what technique does Dr. Nathan do? They'll probably say something along the lines of chiropractic, because I blend a lot of them together based on what the person needs. Does that make a little bit of sense when I'm phrasing this?
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, True Weight Solutions, The 100-Year Lifestyle, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Ultimate Entrepreneur Opportunity, BrainTap, Sherman College of Chiropractic, and Chiro Pro Accounting. Let's hustle. Yeah, to be able to take the mic a little bit and to share with you is one of the things that contextually I like to talk about, just from a personal standpoint, is stress.
Mm-hmm.
And Luke and I get checked and adjusted weekly as necessary. And I'll tell you, there's times where I go in and I see our chiro, and I'm like, once again, every day, up early, up late. I'm doing calls, I'm doing interviews, I'm doing meetings, I'm figuring out the next steps that we need to do as a business, and working with Luke and sending him like just message after message and screenshot after screenshot, and telling him about this person I just talked to and how it involves him. And the next thing I know, I go in and I get adjusted and I feel less stress.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's a mechanical change in me. I know that there's a neurological change in me. And I think that that's the part where if everybody got adjusted as necessary, they would realize that it was a different sense of freedom. And it would be giving them a different sense of, how they make deposits for their health account.
Yeah.
And what they're actually doing. Like, if somebody doesn't know how to balance their checkbook, they're probably going to go bankrupt. And if somebody doesn't know how to eat healthy, they're probably going to suffer with a poor diet. But if they don't know how to fill themselves up with deposits of, their health deposits, then they're probably going to go and, blow their engine per se of their health. And they're going to be under stress, and they're going to have hypertension. They're going to have some type of metabolic syndrome. They're going to have some type of illness that attaches to them that they don't know how to shake. But if they actually practice healthy habits, eating right, getting sleep, staying hydrated, getting adjusted when necessary, their outcome would shift. And it goes back to Bruce Lipton's work, which is epigenetics. that if you started putting yourself in different environments, doing different things, you wouldn't have the same outcome of the people you said, well, diabetes just runs in my family. I say bullshit. It doesn't run in your family. It runs in you because of your epigenetic standpoint. As you do these things and you don't exercise and you don't eat right and you don't do these things, not saying that I'm judgment zone, but what I will say, if people did start living somewhere new and they started doing different things, you could change the outcome of that individual by changing the environment and the things they put in and the things they pay attention to for the long term.
It's funny, you were reading my mind, Jim, because I was thinking Bruce Lipton in my head right as you said it. It was brilliant. It was really funny. There are very few things that are truly genetically determined. If someone has the gene for cystic fibrosis, they're 99.9% of the time going to manifest as cystic fibrosis, as opposed to most things are genetically influenced. However, what Jim was talking about with Bruce Lipton is what's influencing the genes. And the way I describe it is genes, our cells have to make proteins that make everything else. The genes are, you got a bunch of Legos lying around the floor. The genes are nothing more than the manuals of what do you want to make with the Legos. So if you want to make the Millennium Falcon, the Death Star, the pirate ship, that's the genes. It's just the instruction manual. It doesn't determine for itself which instruction manual gets used. The environment does, and that has a lot to do with, Jim, what you were talking about with stress. And the thing about stress is that it's not going away. It's just not. It's a matter of, are you emotionally, mentally, are you in a place where you're using your time for something that is that is bigger than yourself and that you see as being fulfilling? Not always happy, not always joyful, but fulfilling in the long term. Emotionally, do you have the bandwidth? Because most people are not at their chronological age and their emotional age do not meet. A lot of people are at about the emotional bandwidth of a 2 to 3 year old. And the tantrums just look different in adults. So have you done that type of work? Have you worked with your own ego to be able to allow it to relax around certain things? And a lot of teachings out there say that the ego is bad. I'm of the opinion that if our ego or our personality, if we weren't meant to have one, we just wouldn't have one. It's part of what allows us to experience the separateness of this reality. But it's a matter of, is it disciplined and is it grown and disciplined? Because one of my favorite teachings on the ego, I don't know how we got here, but I'm just going to keep rolling if that's cool, is the ego, as it develops and as it becomes disciplined, becomes the chalice that houses our soul and allows our soul. It can shut down the flow, or it can allow the flow in so many beautiful ways. And that's what a lot of teachers, both in the East and the West, have been talking about for millennia. And then physically, are you doing all the right things to, as you put it, create a really good bank account? My girlfriend was reading a book, a really good book on nutrition, and they were talking about metabolic flexibility. And what I, of course, having as one of my dear friends and mentors, Wade Port, calls it, I have OCD, obsessive chiropractic discipline. So I'm hearing this from the lens of being a chiropractor. Do you have neurological flexibility? Is your nerve system and your energetic system flexible enough to deal with what comes next? Or does your body have to short circuit around the experience, store it up for later, and in the meantime, cause a whole lot of distortions and a whole lot of issues?
So where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years?
Well, in my office, in really good ways, because I get to direct this ship. Overall, it kind of depends on what chiropractors are willing to do. Because right now we have a brand issue. Like every single chiropractic, like my chiropractic office and all the chiropractic offices around me, we all have slightly different brands. I've the name of my practice. I'm sort of the brand of it right now. But overall, chiropractic as a brand has a lot of issues. I was listening to a student recently, and they were saying, how do you respond when someone says, "Oh, I went to a chiropractor. I was so hurt," and I was talking to friends, and they got hurt at a chiropractor. And I was left kind of sitting with it, like, a lot of people, that's their experience, that it's rough. It's manipulative. It's not honoring to the person, not honoring to their journey. one way or another. And I'm not even counting the huge schism and divide in our profession of people who essentially want to practice medicine as a chiropractor. I'm talking about chiropractors. We're really experiential animals. We learn via experience. And so it depends on what people are willing to do. And I think one of the biggest issues that chiropractors have, and I say this as a chiropractor, so I'm taking my responsibility for my part of the co-creation, is that we've spent a lot of time trying to make people want what we want. Clear nervous system and neural integrity. I've had a lot of people who, I want to be able to dance at my daughter's wedding. I want my baby to be able to sleep. I want to be able to run with my kids while we're on the golf course together to run and see whose ball got further on this shot. So, yes, the neurological integrity and flexibility that we're talking about, that we all can kind of nerd out about, is awesome. Are we willing to develop both our ability to deliver the goods, and even before that, really listen and help people see chiropractic as a tool to help them get what they want? And when what they want changes, like, great. How do we help you not only patch the holes in the boat and put out the fire in the sails and repair the boat, but make you a better sailor? And I think a lot of chiropractors, myself included, got really frustrated last year with the way people were perceiving their health and their life. Then that kind of falls to us are we doing our job to really explain and inspire people to potentially take a different perspective? And then if they don't, it's entirely their choice. And this, I'm speaking also to myself because I need to get better at it too. So if chiropractors were able to really start to deliver the goods in a way that was, I don't want to even say measurable and repeatable, because it's all different. It's so exponential and logarithmic in what we do. That's why randomized control trials are really challenging in what we do, because it affects everything. But if we could really up-level all of our skills and our connection skills, then I think a lot of really beautiful things could happen, because people are just craving it. I drive through Chicago all the time. I'm down the street from National University of Health Sciences, so I'm in what I call Metapractor Mecca right here. There's one of the best hospitals in the city, has a big billboard that says "Care for your mind, body, and soul." Nike had posters a couple of years ago that says "Let your you out." Energizer, trust the power within. They're better at our message than we are. It's really frustrating. So, yes, I love helping people with the pains and the aches. Like, I think part of it is when people come in and tell me their symptoms, I really connect with them and let them tell me it, because it's their expression of life. It's usually a very intelligent expression of what's going on. How do I gently, over time, express that to them and let more people know about the stuff that we all love about chiropractic and what is possible? So if that were to happen, and because we're at kind of I think it's Malcolm Gladwell talks about the tipping point. Guy Reekman was the president of Life when I was there, and he loves that work. People are ready and craving for it. And I think also people have been, in the last year, have gotten so tired of playing only defense with their health, they want to play offense. So if we can do that, and if potentially we're all courageous enough to stand up for that in a loving way, and in a way that we're not attached to the outcome or the agenda of it, then I think we can really see some beautiful change for people, and people to really take responsibility and ownership for themselves, for their life, and feel that empowerment that comes with it. Right now, and admittedly, I will fully admit, like, sometimes when we're telling people, like, yeah, this is your body, you got to live in it, it's awesome, they're looking at it like it's a shack on a hill, as opposed to we're looking like, no, look at the mansion that we can build here. So it's just there's a lot of factors in it. But I think my generation of chiropractors is really inspired by that, and so I'm really excited to see what my friends, and hopefully I'll be given the privilege of continuing to contribute to that, get to do with this culture that we're currently at, and with everything that is possible. So in 20 years, I think I think it could be a really beautiful thing that more and more people not only get chiropractic care, but are empowered to live by the principles of it.
Is it okay if I share a couple things with you?
Absolutely. I'll shut up for a little while.
No, I think that I want to run parallel with you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back to the initial things that you said. And the initial thing that you said was um, people have to create a stronger brand recognition for the profession. And you said it's a shack on the hill, but we see the mansion. And I think that if you think about the person that comes in for the necessity of services from a chiropractor, they're coming in with a body that's never had a tune-up before. So we're taking somebody, doesn't matter what age vintage they are, but we're trying to introduce an adjustment to their structure that they've been malaligned for who knows how long. Well, hell yes, that's going to be a little bit disruptive.
Just
And could that give you a little bit of trouble with how you feel and how you carry on after that adjustment? There could be some potentiality for that. And I think that that's a part where we get these people that aren't informed of what real chiropractors do and what real chiropractic is. When you talk about delivering the goods, these people get the goods delivered to them and they weren't ready for that. And maybe the practitioner wasn't skilled well enough to communicate that to somebody, but the body that was receiving it wasn't able to understand what just happened with the upgrade from where it used to be. So yeah, that's a real uncomfortable place to be. And there's a real popular trend now. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. Well, if you're uncomfortable and you come in for somebody and you're saying, "Hey, help me." Yeah, that could be real uncomfortable. It's not going to be like, the biggest thing that you ever could dream of to happen in your life, because a healing journey isn't like I'm coming into you with a problem. I've had headaches since I was a little one, and now I'm 25, and give me this miracle hole-in-one adjustment, and all of a sudden I don't have headaches anymore. I think that it's relationship building with the profession. It's relationship building with the person that you're helping. It's relationship building. It's, and that's just it, is the chiropractic profession, just from my outside perspective, being somebody that's been supportive of the chiropractic, profession, is I don't think it's so much of a identity thing. I think it's being happy with the position that you have right now, and don't worry about what the hell a tipping point is. Be happy that you get a chance to go out there and do what you do with the skill sets that you have. And then when you do that the right way, we don't worry about the end game. We worry about the now game. And if we do the now game the right way, the end game will take care of itself. But you don't get the chance to go out of sequence. You have to take care of the work today in order to get the outcome for tomorrow. And if we're going to do the right thing, we have to start having these cultural conversations based on these topics. And we can't rely on the tipping point from 5 years ago's conversations to be the outcome. We can't talk about the lack of people that the profession's seeing. We have to be thankful for the amount of people we are seeing. And I think that that's how we win this game, is we become more thankful for the 8% or the 20% or whatever percent it is, and stop worrying about what other people are doing, and start worrying more about what we are doing and what we are at capacity for. Because right now, if we were to double that, chiropractors would lose their damn mind trying to take care of all the people that would say, I need to come in and get checked and adjusted. So, if we do it the right way, and we build responsibility for the position that we have now, and stop worrying about what people are trying to do to manipulate the brand of chiropractic, and start worrying about and caring for what we're actually doing as a culture and as a group and as a unit, that's where we get the big win. And it's not about thinking where we're going so much, per se, but it's so much about where we are. And now more than ever, you're telling me, Dr. Nathan, is that people want to invest more in their health now more than ever and be more preventive. Well, it's not the fact that the chiropractors that are around you are doing anything differently. They're just taking money from the wrong institutions. And the colleges out there are just taking money from the wrong investors. And if we took more money from the deposits of the chiropractic profession back into the chiropractic profession, we wouldn't take money from other institutions and other agendas that were non-chiropractic minded. And I think that if we just started to support brick by brick, chiropractor for chiropractor, we wouldn't have any division. We'd have more support for one chiropractic profession that would be more supportive and more value driven. Because with Luke and I, our show was never about how do we make $1 million. It was how do we make 1,000 shows. And when you make 1,000 shows, you make $1 million.
Yeah.
It's the recipe for podcasters. So recipe to other people out there that if you just follow the sequences of building a chiropractic profession the right way, you don't go out of sequence. But I think when chiropractors want to play ball at the medical arena, they basically, like you said, the chiropractic college is fastidious on creating people that get out and pass tests and pay bills. But that's the reason that we have the disconnect, is because now we have a group of healers that don't understand banking and business and finance that are now wearing the golden handcuffs next to the adjusting table that never feel like they're good enough because they don't understand the business strategies to become successful. And that's how chiropractic gets to the point where, they are infiltrated with people that have made money in different sectors now saying, hey, we have a life support for you guys. We have a life preserver. We're going to toss it to you, but put foot levelers on your arena, put standard process on your building, put our name of the joint inside of your cafeteria.
If I could have a grocery store in here with all the stuff people want me to sell for them.
Yeah, become corporate sponsored because we learned how to make money. Now we're going to save your ass.
Can I respond on something you said?
Yeah.
This is one of to any students who are listening. This is where developing a parallel curriculum becomes vitally important, because there's 3 parts of chiropractic school. We all know the academic part. That's the really fun one. It's great. And it's the hoops that we all signed up for. And if I got through it, you can get through it. The parallel curriculum is listening to podcasts, reading books, going to seminars, going to clubs, finding mentors, shadowing at offices, fly across the country if you want to learn from someone. That is the parallel curriculum, which is actually how you learn how to, as Jim put it, build your chiropractic experience the right way. The third aspect, and this is the part that I do not believe gets talked about enough in chiropractic school, is what I lovingly call the spiritual curriculum of chiropractic. It is almost like the universe looks at you and goes, okay, you want to have healing energy flow through you and you want to help humanity heal, awaken, and evolve? Great. We got to work on this, and those issues, and we're going to at least start on that by the time you graduate. It's a huge... the more inner work you do, the more inner journeying you do to heal the wounds you've been carrying around, to find out about yourself and to really learn how to express that, even if it's just to yourself, allows you to hold a greater healing space and facilitate more of what chiropractic can do. And so to any students listening, please invest in yourself, invest in the time. And I realize everyone has different things going on. You might be married, you might have kids. Do as much as you can. A lot of stuff out there is free, and a lot of it is also very affordable. And now is absolutely the time, so that way when you get out, you do not feel like like those golden handcuffs that Jim was talking about, that you don't feel it, and that you at least have done as much of the work as you can to know that you absolutely are enough. You absolutely have it within you to facilitate healing for others and facilitate healing for yourself. And you really can't take many people either farther than you have gone or are willing to go with them. And so it's a matter of building that bandwidth in yourself to do that. And there's a lot of avenues with it. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And now's the time. And if you're a doc listening, like, there's no greater opportunity to find out where you are and where your shadow is and where your weak points are than being in practice. If you want to know and you want to work on it, your practice will tell you. And being able to get comfortable, I think that this is something I see a lot with chiropractors. We're all focused on the light of things. We absolutely forget about the shadow of things. And when we have light coming in, it flushes up shadow. We then process it, integrate it, heal it, and then we expand. More light comes in, more of our shadow flushes up. The concepts, the belief systems, the thought forms that we're not enough, that we're abandoned, that we're alone, that we're separate, that we're going to fail, all of these things. We get to then practice and work on it. It's the journey of awakening. It's the journey of a lifetime. And it can be safe, gentle, and easy. There are a lot of spiritual traditions out there that has to be full of drama, trauma, and struggle. And I work off the premise that it can be safe, gentle, and easy.
So we have one more question for you, and I'm going to tee it up for Luke.
Okay, I'm ready.
Do you feel like there's some things that I shared with you today that helped you?
Yes, absolutely. I loved what you were saying when you were responding to something I said that was responding to something you said about focusing on now. Everything else, because if we focus too much on the past, then we're not in present time. If we focus too much in front of us, then we're not in present time. Then we get anxious or we get depressed. We get nervous or we get angry. Like, focusing on now is so important, and growing that. And just like how we talk about the body heals from the inside out, our practices can heal from the inside out, our businesses can, and chiropractic can. And more importantly, if we're doing that, then the public and humanity gets to. That was, Jim, so I needed to hear that. So thank you, sir.
Well, that's what we do this for. We are documenting the profession one interview at a time. And we're creating this amazing tapestry of telling the story and keeping free speech in the chiropractic profession, supporting subluxation-based chiropractic, and in the foundations and the tenets of innate intelligence and universal intelligence, allowing people to know that the chiropractic adjustment does connect man the physical with man the spiritual. And it's not about your symptom. You are not your symptoms. You are you. And that if you get checked and adjusted, then your body has more of an opportunity to thrive. And you have somebody that's going to help you captain your ship to safe land and not let you get lost and drift. And chiropractic can be the anchor for an entire community. It can be the anchor for an individual. It can be the anchor for so many people. But the chiropractor that is the caregiver is the one that is the facilitator of knowledge and resources and the adjustment. And if chiropractors could adjust themselves, it'd be a lot better world.
And in the meantime, get adjusted. We have to get adjusted a lot ourselves. Chiropractors are notoriously bad for actually getting adjusted. So I love adjusting chiropractors in my area. I love getting adjusted. It's, if my paws aren't doing their thing, or if I'm feeling stuff come up, then that's when I go get adjusted. And then getting regularly checked too. But, sorry, Luke.
No, that's okay. We're just about at the edge of our time. So maybe you could quickly touch on some of your hobbies. What are some things you like to read and listen to in your spare time?
Absolutely. I'm a huge movie and TV junkie, like my man. And it varies so much, but I find so much inspiration in things that, there's so many great shows. Like the one that's coming to mind was a Netflix show called Sense8 from a couple of years ago. I'm looking at that and like, that's all chiropractic principle, human awakening, evolution. Like, it's a lot of it in there. So I see that and I feel really inspired, but I'm also a huge Marvel, Star Wars fan. Like, I love it all. So I love that I just recently adopted a dog about 6 months ago. And so I'm just absolutely loving being a dog dad with my girlfriend, and it's been so much fun. I'm notorious when it comes to reading nonfiction. I will bounce around, and I have like 17 books going at once. What I'm currently reading right now is Rising Strong by Brene Brown. I think her work is absolutely amazing and essential. And if you're listening, please, if you want to get 2 books from me, 2 books after this. One is The Power of Vulnerability. It's an audiobook by Brene Brown, and everything I was talking about empathy and connection is gold. I'm also reading a book called The Healing Wisdom of Africa. Just looking at, again, another way that people have been applying and using and living by the principles that chiropractic talks about too. And I spend a lot of time also helping with MLS seminars. It's one of the main foundational aspects of who I am as a person and as a chiropractor. So you can find me there. And also I'm about to be publishing a book that I wrote with 2 physiology professors from Carthage College. It's coming out in a couple months, and it's entitled Letters to Our Younger Selves. We decided we wanted to write something, and we decided to write them as letters. If we could go back in time, right through time, to our younger selves and give advice that we now have and have integrated, what would it be? That was sort of what prompted us, and so that's coming out soon.
That's profound. Thank you for sharing all this with us today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a website of your own?
Pardon me?
Do you have a website of your own for like your clinic or your practice?
I do. My website is innatelifechiro.com because the name of my practice is Innate Life Chiropractic. And so you can find me there. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagrams and all that fun stuff. And this was such a pleasure. Thank you both. This was wonderful.
Well, it's an honor to me to finally get a chance to break some digital bread with you and to have you on our show and to feature you as one of our episodes. And I look forward to writing the next chapter with you along this journey of our podcast and chiropractic and building a friendship. And next time Luke is in the Chicagoland area, I'll make sure he comes over and gets checked.
I'd love that. It'd be a pleasure and an honor to serve you, sir.
Because Chicagoland is like a big amusement park, I think.
If you get on a roller coaster and you get jostled around the runway, I'll help you out.
It's just Chicagoland. We should actually create our own amusement park.
If we've got Six Flags Great America, it's as close as we get.
Well, Dr. Nathan, thank you very much for being our guest today. And people listening at home, if you want to create a podcast just like ours, go to chirohustlemasterclass.com. And Dr. Nathan, thank you very much for being our guest today.
Thank you so much. And thank you both for all you do for chiropractic and for humanity.
Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.